Welcome everyone. Would you please rise for the invocation and stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Heavenly Father, we are assembled here tonight to make decisions and to create an example for others to follow. Give us as leaders guidance and courage to do what is right for our city. Allow us to have clear minds to fulfill our tasks, working for the betterment of our community. Amen.
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Again, welcome everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order, the City of Lee Summit regular session number 30. Could I get a roll call, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Hodges?
Here.
Councilmember DeMauro?
Here.
Councilmember Pryor?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez?
Here.
Councilmember Felker? Here. Councilmember Lovell?
Here.
Councilmember Edson?
Here.
Councilmember Shields? Absent. Mayor Baird?
Here. Before we get started on the approval of the agenda, I was just going to make a statement. Council members and others have made a lot of requests about the potential or proposed landfill on 150 Highway. So I'm going to go ahead and read my statement because I want to make sure I cover all the bases. Lee Summit works collaboratively with all of our neighboring cities, and we pursue every regional opportunity to work with other jurisdictions. We are dedicated to the Mid-America Regional Council and are in full cooperation and coordination when it comes to regional infrastructure, waste management, transportation, economic development, and emergency preparedness. This is how Lee Summit and other cities are given a seat at the table when deciding what type of waste management facilities such as landfills are allowed at a gateway into our community. The last few months, our city and city council have dedicated tremendous amount of time and resources toward learning the facts and taking a position regarding a proposed landfill in Kansas City on 150 Highway. Our city administration and attorneys have been in constant contact with the city of Raymore officials and attorneys. Once information such as the name of the potential developer could be confirmed, the following actions and resolutions have taken place. January 19th, the Lee Summit City Council unanimously passed a resolution in opposition to any proposed landfill in Kansas City on 150 Highway. January 24th, our community partner, the Lee Summit School District, passed a resolution in opposition to the landfill. Also on January 24th, the Grandview Board of Aldermen unanimously passed a resolution opposing any landfill outside the city limits and near its borders. January 27th, I, Mayor Baird, along with city council members, attended a governmental relations meeting to let the our Lee Summit state representatives, Carrie Engel and Kim Strickler, and our state senator, Mike Searpoy, know of our strong opposition and need for support of House Bill 909, giving Lee Summit a say in landfills on our border. January 31st, I, Mayor Baird, and City Manager Mark Dunning met with Kansas City Mayor Quentin Lucas and Kansas City Manager Brian Platt to discuss our opposition to the proposed landfill. I offered to collaborate with Kansas City on how to develop the 150 Highway corridor for its highest and best use, such as residential and commercial development. February 7th, the Lee Summit, that one hasn't happened yet. I'll revise that one. February 14th, I, along with numerous officials from Raymore, Grandview, Lee Summit School District, and the Raintree Homeowners Association, testified in Jefferson City at a public hearing in favor of House Bill 909 to give Lee Summit that seat at the table in landfill decisions at our gateway. House Bill 909 would require consent from Lee Summit and Raymore to allow a landfill within 1 mile of our borders. The developer is circumventing the protection that should be afforded to Lee Summit given the proximity of the landfill to our city limits. And then on February 15th, the Kansas City Council held a first reading on a resolution directing the city manager to perform an evaluation of the city's solid waste needs within 6 months and expressing opposition to any landfill in southeast Kansas City at this time. February 21st, I, along with Councilmember members Bethel Lopez, Fred DeMoro, Mia Pryor, and City Manager Mark Dunning met individually in Jefferson City with senators and representatives to garner support for House Bill 909, giving Lee Summit the ability to oppose and reject a landfill at our border. February 22nd, the Lee Summit Chamber passed a resolution in opposition to the proposed landfill on 150. February 22nd also, House Bill 909 came out of the Missouri House of Representatives Local Government Committee with a unanimous vote in support of extending the statute to 1 mile, which would give Lee Summit the ability to oppose and reject a landfill at our border. And February 27th, House Bill 909 came out of the Missouri House of Representatives Rules Administrative Oversight Committee with a unanimous vote in support of extending the statute to 1 mile. House Bill 909 appears to be headed to the House floor, and its outcome looks promising. However, it will need to pass the Senate. We are not clear as to the outcome in the Senate, as the developer, KC Recycle and Waste Solutions, has hired 17 lobbyists to help keep its chances alive for a landfill on 150 Highway. The city of Lee Summit is working on alternative plans to oppose and stop a landfill on 150 Highway if this statute amendment is not approved by both the Missouri House and Senate. Additionally, the city of Lee Summit will hold a public hearing in order to relay facts to citizens and community stakeholders, as well as provide an opportunity for citizens to testify with their concerns. The 150 Highway corridor is important to our community, and if it is developed, it should be with a residential and mixed-use commercial developments like the communities in the surrounding areas. The first step is to prevent a landfill from tainting this corridor. We will then dedicate time and resources toward changes to develop the area in a healthy way. So I just wanted to get that statement out because we're getting a lot of, I think, emails, messaging, comments, just when we're out and about. We are working really hard on this, obviously. We're putting a lot of time. City staff has been working on this for a few months now, trying to figure out what the facts are. But we're taking action as much as we possibly can, and we're doing this the right way. So I wanted to have that. I'll get that out into the media, and appreciate the council members making a recommendation that we make a statement. So appreciate that. With that said, I need to get on with our regularly scheduled meeting. I need an approval of the agenda as scheduled. I have a motion to approve the agenda by Councilmember DeMoro, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8. There we go. All votes are in. Please record the vote. And it passes 8-0. Thank you. Next is the approval of the consent agenda. I have a motion to adopt the consent by Councilmember Hodges, seconded by Councilmember Felker. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. Oh, no, they're not all in. Who did not get on that vote? Can you please add Councilmember Felker as an aye? Thank you. All right, thank you. Third, we got mayoral appointments. We've got Human Relations Commission, Sadia Mahmood. I was going to mention on her. She is on the Diversity and Inclusion Commission. And we did have someone that stepped off of the Human Relations Commission that was also on the Diversity and Inclusion Commission. And so we really need someone that's on both to be a liaison between the two. And she's been very, very active and involved, so and willing to serve in that capacity. I have a motion to approve by Councilmember Edson and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Lopez. Discussion? Yes, Councilmember Felker.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to make a comment and then ask a question. Maybe, Mr. Head, if you wouldn't mind helping me on something. So number one, my comment was the applicant. I love her application. I just appreciate that. And I know staff is doing the work of putting that together. And I appreciate that she was very thoughtful in presenting why she would be a good candidate for this position. Then my question, Mr. Head, just and I just thought of this actually, or I would have asked this at another time, but we entertained at one point having limitations on how many different committees you could be on or commissions, but I don't remember that came into it. And can you confirm that that's the case, that we didn't put a limit on the number of commissions or committees that someone could serve on?
No, we did not end up putting a limit on the number of committees and commissions and so on that a person could serve on. We didn't do that.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I
Mayor.
will say, just real quick, the next week, we're probably going to have, it's bad timing, but at least it's full disclosure. There are a couple of committees that are kind of tough to appoint. Board of Appeals, Water Utilities, and we have a couple of people on those that are on both. And Board of Appeals, again, we can talk about it next week, but Board of Appeals is one, they meet one time a year, is that right, Mr. Dunning, maybe?
That's correct. Same thing with some of those advisory boards. They're typically once a year type
Yeah,
of.
so there's been a couple of people that they enjoy that one meeting a year, and they've been doing it for a while, so I was gonna have a couple of duplicates next week, so I just wanted to forewarn you. So if you want to talk about those, we can later. All right, any other discussion? All right, seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in, please record the vote. It passes 8-0, thank you. Next is council roundtable, items of general interest, community announcements, anything going on in your district? Yes, Councilmember Lovell.
Thank you, Mayor. I had the pleasure last week of attending my dad's Hall of Fame induction down at Missouri Parks and Recreation Hall of Fame. It was a great celebration, and
Tom Lovell.
Tom Lovell, yes. And then also want to recognize Joe Snook, our Director of Parks, was given a fellow. Mr. Dunning, what was the?
Yeah, it's a Missouri Parks and Recreation Fellow. It's the highest award that the Missouri Parks and Recreation can award to an administrator for their years of dedication to the community, to the state Parks and Recreation, and to the profession. So,
Just really proud of our Parks Department and all they do. I don't think it's a secret. We've got, top-notch group there in parks that people look up to across the country. So that was cool. Thanks, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Councilmember Pryor.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I wanted to thank you for your statement. It was a good statement, so thank you. Second, we went to the Capitol last Tuesday, and I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that met with us, and it was a good trip. And then third, the spring open house in downtown Lee Summit is this weekend, and then the 3rd and the 4th. And parade entries for the Emerald Isle Parade, the big St. Patrick's Day Parade, they're due by March 1st, so tomorrow. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Very good, well done. Next, we will move on to the business of the evening, starting off with the public hearings. I'm going to close the regular session and open the public hearing. In the matter of agenda item 5A, this is a preliminary development plan, Summer Moon Coffee, 699 Northwest Blue Parkway. Jaeger Architecture is the applicant. Would all those wishing to speak to this matter please rise and be sworn in by the city clerk? Very good. Does the applicant have a presentation?
Oh, there we go. Got it. Okay, there you go. That PDF, you should be good.
Hello. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Jessica Wardle, and I'm with Jaeger Architecture. We're the architecture firm working with Summer Moon Coffee on their new restaurant in Lee Summit. So in addition to our team, we have a few consultants on board. We have a civil engineer, which is Renaissance Infrastructure Consulting, And I have with me Mick Slutter here with me here today. If we have any questions about civil engineering. And then for mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, we have PKMR engineers on board. And again, the project is at 699 Northwest Blue Parkway in Lee's Summit. So this is a slide a little bit about Summer Moon, and I have two of the owners here with me today, the Graham family, which Steve is out of town today, but his wife Shelley and daughter Kirsten are here with me today. So if we have questions about anything specific with Summer Moon, I'm sure that they could address those. But a brief overview, they were founded in Texas. They're known for their wood-fired coffee roasting process. They do not roast in their store, but they're well known for that. They have stores in Alabama, Arkansas, Colorado, Illinois, Kansas, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, and Wisconsin. They currently have 40 locations and growing. And you may have already been to their store in Overland Park. They're at 91st and Metcalf, so if you haven't, I'm sure the Grahams would appreciate you stopping by. But this bottom picture is a picture of their location in Overland Park. So this is these are some photographs showing the location that they're going to be moving into in Lee Summit. And if you're familiar with the Freezing Moo ice cream shop that was previously there, they're moving into that tenant space. So the photo on the left is the main entrance into their tenant space. That's on the northwest corner of the building. The middle top photo is the west side of the building, which is the main facade and where all of the other tenants enter their spaces. The bottom photo is the north side of the building, and then this photo on the right is the east side of the building, which is the back of the building. And you'll notice, I know this picture is a little bit small, but there are some double doors on the far right of that last picture, and that goes into their space. So the next two slides are site plans. This is showing the overall site plan, but on the next slide I zoom in a little bit, so I'll briefly go over this slide to begin with. So kind of what prompted this preliminary development plan was that we would like to add a drive-through component, which triggered this, having to submit this. And we will change the traffic pattern a little bit on site. So you would enter the drive-through on the south side of the building between these two existing buildings, and this would become one-way traffic down here. And then you would turn north, and again, that would be a one-way traffic pattern. So we've added a few different do not enter signs to show that you cannot go the wrong way. At the last Planning Commission meeting, we previously had only shown one, and it was requested that we add a second one, so we went ahead and did that, and that was a change from the last Planning Commission meeting. And I'll zoom in a little bit here. So we would like to locate the pickup window. There's an existing opening. Previously, I'd shown you those two double doors on the east side of the building. We'd like to remove those doors and use that existing opening to locate the pickup window. And we're required to have 4 car lengths that can stack back behind that pickup window. And then we have our menu board kind of on that southeast side of the building. And we're required to have 5 car lengths beyond that. So we're showing those required 9 car lengths. One thing that we really are not trying to modify architecturally much to the building, there is an existing trash enclosure back there that we would have to relocate. Since it's in the drive aisle. So we would have to remove that and add, right over here you have the plan showing the new trash enclosure, which is across the drive aisle. And then we included some different elevations showing that it would be similar in size to what is existing out there. It would just be a freestanding structure, and we would still clad it in the required masonry. So we'd have brick to match the existing building. And then we also had some discussion at the Planning Commission meeting about what the elevation and what would be affected on the outside. So we're really trying to limit anything that we do to the outside. We would remove the existing trash enclosure, and then we would remove these double doors right in here, and we would add the pickup window. It's an automatic pickup window. We're a little on the fence at the last Planning Commission whether this would be a window or a door, but Summer Moon's come to the conclusion that they'd rather have a window just for their workflow purposes and for the safety of their employees. So we'd infill the surrounding with metal panel to match the metal doors on the back of the building. So architecturally, we're trying to limit as much as we can on the outside. So I think that's everything that we wanted to share with you. I know that the Graham family is very excited to come to Lee Summit, and they can't wait to get started on this project. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. Joshua Johnson, Director of Development Services. I'll begin by entering staff's list of exhibits 1 through 17 into the record.
Please enter 1 through 17 into the record.
So, the applicant covered a lot of the, I'll call it meat and potatoes, but I'll bring this up just in case we need to reference it. So at the Planning Commission, one main point of discussion was the flow of the site, as the applicant mentioned, and that's why the extra condition for the other do not enter sign was placed on the application. That's also reflected in the ordinance that's right after this item on the agenda. After much discussion, the Planning Commission did ultimately recommend unanimously this application for approval to the City Council. Other than those issues, there were questions about the trash enclosure, how that was all going to work, and questions about how trash pickup would occur, things of that nature, and the applicant fielded those questions. There was a line of discussion about operationally how they would handle the number of customers that are reflected on the traffic study. And the applicant can answer those questions in more detail, but they did indicate they thought they could turn that amount of customers during the AM and PM peak hour. The Planning Commission's main concern was really having cars back up and make that parking lot unusable by the other tenants. So I think with that, I'd be available for questions, and obviously the applicant is too. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Questions for staff or the applicant? Councilmember Felker.
Thank you, Mayor. So I would love to hear what the applicant says about handling the traffic flow. I did not watch the Planning Commission, so I was curious to know what your response was to that question.
Hi, my name's Kirsten Graham, and so I got with our manager. She used to run Summer Moon. She had a shop in Austin, Texas, and we're very blessed to have her. She's worked there for 5 years, and then she actually moved back to Lee Summit, and she ran one with a drive-through, and she gave us a better idea since we've never done this before. She said during the low peak times, it's usually 10 to 15 per hour for customers. And then during the high peak time, it's probably closer to 30 to 35 customers. Does that help?
Yeah, so just meaning, and then I guess the question then is just how quickly do you anticipate they go through? I mean, I suppose, I don't know how long is typical or how many that might back up. And
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I actually used to work at a Scooters, and they used to give us a goal of a minute to take the order, place it, and get it out the drive-through window. That's my only experience with drive-throughs. So I would guess we'd easily be able to get a car through in a minute.
so you said this is the first, you haven't done this in the other location?
We have not.
So is that part of your objective, is to actually have kind of a procedure with staff as to what the goal is for time?
Oh, yes. Summer Moon in Austin, Texas has a bunch of different drive-through locations, so they're a great resource for us. So it's new to us, but it's not new to them, so they're great with the efficiency, and we've laid out a bar that's very efficient, so we feel really confident that we'll be able to get customers through quickly.
Second question, either for you or for staff, is so I noticed looking at the map that there was parking that's on that, I guess that's the east side of the building. So is that parking now unavailable, or is it going to be compromised at all by that drive-through? I think I'm looking at the right spot.
So we've converted the parking. It was head-end parking on the east. Now it's parallel parking.
Okay, so there's so the number of spaces have reduced, I'm sure,
Yes.
significantly. So does that create any problems from
From an overall standpoint, it's still, from all the different uses on the site, it's still parked adequately, and I'm sure staff can
That's the question I'm
agree.
going for,
Yep.
is are we still up to snuff in terms of the number of spaces we need to have?
Yeah, referencing page 3 of the staff report, Overall required spaces are 85, there's 87 on site, and also they exceed their number of accessible spaces, so we should be good to go.
Okay, so that 87 is after the adjustment to parallel versus what I'm looking at
Yeah.
just a Google map, so, okay,
Yep.
great. Well, Mayor, that's all the question I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions for staff or applicant? All right, is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor or in opposition to the application? Please come forward. All right, any additional questions from council? Does the applicant care to make any further comment?
I just want to say we're really excited to come to Lee Summit. We love Lee Summit. We're out here quite a bit. Actually, we love the downtown area. It's super fun. So we just feel really blessed to have such a good location, and we're really excited about it.
Thank you. Hearing no further testimony, I'm closing the public hearing and reopening the regular session. Is there any council discussion on this application? Seeing none, Councilmember DeMoro, would you please read bill number 23-040?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to advance to second reading Bill number 23-040, an ordinance approving a preliminary development plan for Summer Moon Coffee on land located at 699 Northwest Blue Parkway, all in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 33, the Unified Development Ordinance of the Code of Ordinances for the city of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, bill number 23-040 by Councilmember DeMoro, seconded by Councilmember Hodges. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you all. And welcome to Lee Summit. All right. We are on public comments. Do we have any public comments?
Mayor, we did not have any public comments submitted for tonight's meeting.
I made one earlier, so there we go. Okay, how about presentations? We got a detailed presentation that's gonna just knock your socks off. Yeah. One second. We're going to see a presentation, Mr. Dunning, and Councilmember Felker and I, and maybe others, we like to pull them up on our computers, and there's not a link online. So could you make sure we get that added? And you want them to email it to you?
Yeah, some reason the link.
How big is the file, Mr. Banger?
The PDF is not that big.
Okay, so it can be emailed. Maybe you could just email that out.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot, and if that doesn't work, I'll also give a hyperlink that hopefully will sync up.
Okay, thanks. All right, go ahead, sir.
All right, good evening. I'm George Binger, city engineer, and this evening I'm joined by Anna White with the Black and Veatch Corporation. And we're here to discuss the stormwater rate and implementation study. And so I'll start off by going over some of the background, some of the issues we have with the city, and then Anna will talk through some of the more, get into some of the nuts and bolts of the utility approach and funding options. So again, we'll start with some, this is kind of the process we'll go through. So I'll address the first couple of items, and then Anna will address the remainder. So current stormwater, well, actually, we'll back up here. I mean, this picture we have on the cover slide, this is here in Lee Summit. This is a neighborhood south of Langford Road between 291 and Todd George. And this is a home that, homes where we have done some capital projects because we had to mitigate flooding in this particular area. But then, we're limited in that because we've had the funding from the bond issue in 2007 and then some from our current sales tax. So the system that we're dealing with, we have over 300 miles of pipe in the ground with our stormwater system. Out of that, a third of that is corrugated metal pipe. That's this 122 miles of CMP. And that is one of our significant issues, is that corrugated metal pipe tends to rust and fail over time, causing sinkholes. We've had several replacement projects over the years where we've had to do kind of emergency repairs on these items. The 17,000 structures are inlets, junction boxes, so that's where every time we have a bend in the pipe, we have to have a structure, curb inlets, things of that nature. So this is part of the system that we have to maintain. The streams, there's very small amounts actually owned by the city, and these are actually in city parks where the stream owns that particular area. And year in and year out, we average about 120 service requests per year. So those are residents calling with some sort of a complaint or concern related to stormwater. Sometimes it's just to go out and meet and talk through some issues on site. Other times it leads to a work order for operations to go out and make some repairs. So that's kind of the system that we're dealing with at this time. So some of the history, the picture on the top left is Green Street. This was about a year and a half ago out here where we had flooding, and you can see the depth based on the cars and up into the buildings in that particular area. The ones on the bottom and to the right are in Oaks Ridge Meadows. That's the far right is Voice Spears Elementary School. You can see the depth on the sign, and then if you look, in this particular one, you can see how it's up in the driveway here with the cars, and most everything is underwater. Now this area has flooded to this extent about 3 times since the year 2000, and that's mainly due to heavy rain events and just the backup from the Little Blue River in this particular area. Other issues we have on the stormwater side is we're talking about stream bank stability issues. So what you see here is property damage. Notice that the height of the trees, so at the bottom of those trees is a stream bank. And so on the outside of the banks, we get erosion, we erode the toe of the slope, and then it's caused the undermining, it has caused these failures. This here on the left is an exposed sewer main. So when we get that type of erosion, we definitely run the risk of a sewage spill into the streams, and it requires water utilities to go out and do some stream stability or encasement or other repairs to their sewers. And then on the bottom right, this is along 2nd Street. This is actually the sidewalk here and the guardrail that you see here, some exposed utility lines, and this led to about a $300,000 capital project to make repairs to this. But these are pictures of things they're generally hidden from the public because we don't see a lot down in the stream bank, but these are ongoing issues that we have. When we look at another element of stormwater is the siltation. So we have several lake communities, and they receive the silt that comes from downstream. Now keep in mind, this is one inlet and structure, but if we multiply this by 17,000, that could be a significant amount. Generally, that's why we have the erosion and control and sediment control ordinances in place. And this is an example of a mud flow entering a stream. These are things that have to be fixed, have to be addressed. With our permit, we have a storm sewer permit issued through the Missouri Department of Natural Resources, and we have to mitigate these types of flows into the stream as part of that water quality permit that we have. The top right, this is a picture of a culvert under Ward Road. This one is actually the south one. It's not the one we replaced recently. And so what you're seeing here are gaps in the pipe where the pipe has started to separate or move. This here is rusted out at the bottom, and what happens over time is the soil will work its way around the pipe and up under and create like a heart shape. Sinkholes or collapse. This is where if you go on YouTube and you just Google stormwater sinkhole, you'll find lots of videos of cars falling into this type of pipe if it's not addressed. Now, we had identified this probably about 10 years ago, which led to the Ward Road project that we completed last year, replacing that culvert. And this is actually in our program as part of the part of the Ward and Purcell's intersection project. We've moved this into the scope because we know it needs to be done. About several years ago, we lined the bottom of the culvert under Langsford Road near Hy-Vee. And it's a very long culvert. So those are some of the things that we can do. And this is kind of a closer up picture where you can see that the metal's completely rusted through. So I refer back to that number of 122 miles. This is what we're facing as a community. Oops, wrong way. So this slide, I'm going to go through a typical workflow when we get a complaint. Okay, this is a sinkhole caused by metal pipe. If you'll note, it's relatively close to the foundation of this house in someone's backyard. So this is a call that we get that's, I don't want to say it's common, but we get them on a recurring basis. So when we go and we investigate, this is the hole right here in the pipe. You can see the pipe is folded and bent here, and it can happen for many reasons, whether it's erosion or during construction, it gets damaged. Occasionally, we'll have utility companies installing fiber optic lines will drill right through the pipes. So there's various reasons why this can happen, but the other issue we deal with metal pipe is our soil's corrosive. It tends to chemically react with the galvanized metal, causing it to rust and create holes. So that is what we find in our investigation. Well, because of this type of failure in close proximity to the house, our operations crews do not have the ability to make this type of repair. I mean, we're not really equipped to excavate this close to a structure, and we don't have the trenchless repair method. So this is our response, is the orange fence around the hole. Now, in this particular case, this orange fence was in place for about 18 months. Part of it happened because just of the cycle, okay? We have to get our contractor, it's towards, this happens at the beginning of a fiscal year. It's not cycled into our stormwater operations budget at this time. We do the investigations, and so going through that process of getting the money in, since this is a contract and we have to, this competes with our other on-call services. So this is what I kind of call now where we're at is the orange fence level of service. So these are some of the issues that we're faced with. We've had, a couple years ago, we had a much larger sinkhole over off of, in the Charleston Park area. It was in the backyard near a tree, and the tree was starting to fall towards the house. Now, that was an emergency repair. It was about a $600 budget amendment to come in and repair that pipe, but it still took us about 3 months to get through that process because we do not have this dedicated source of funding. One of the issues we also have with stormwater is our stormwater crews compete with other services. Public Works Operations, performs pothole patching, right-of-way maintenance, and so when we're in that mode, sometimes we have to pull the staff off the stormwater crew to staff these other operations. And it's currently the only operational source of funding is out of the general fund, so again, we're competing with other priorities. So looking at this concept of a stormwater utility. Now, the stormwater utility concept first came about in the late 1980s as a result of the Clean Water Act amendment. It was a congressional, Congress passed a law adding stormwater to the Clean Water Act. But with that, with the Clean Water Act amendment, there was no funding associated with that. So it basically became an unfunded mandate. At the same time frame, you have a lot of states going through like California, the Prop 13, Missouri adopted the Hancock Amendment, these tax and expenditure limitation rules. So the concept of a utility, a user fee-based approach developed in the late 80s, and we saw a lot of those, we saw a lot of them were formed in the 1990s and 2000 timeframe, because the idea is that stormwater is a service that is provided so that as property is developed, it creates a demand on the system, and so the idea of that user fee came into play. Now, Missouri is unique in the fact that recent court cases pretty well looked at the stormwater utilities, saying that the Supreme Court considers it to be a tax. So the goal of this study is to prepare this utility for a public vote in November of this year. So that's the main purpose of what we're doing. Now, we started the idea of a stormwater utility. We had a stormwater master plan in the late 1990s, early 2000, and that is a series of large 3-ring binders up in the engineering department. It fills an entire bookcase. And that basically identified over 200 known structural complaints, or I'm sorry, flooding complaints, and identified projects to go into that. So out of that came the Stormwater Task Force, Citizens Task Force 2003 and 2004, where you can see we had citizens, development reps, city staff were part of that. They identified 164 projects for $35 million. That study started, and then it was, we're not ready for it now. In 2007, we came out with the Lee Summit 360 strategic plan. That strategic plan recommended a stormwater utility, basically a dedicated source of funding for stormwater. Out of that, we passed the 2007 stormwater bond issue for capital improvements only. No operations, no maintenance, just funding for stormwater projects. And that was limited, based on the funding, the $12 million, it was limited to verified structural flooding related to the lack of or failed public infrastructure. But then we started pursuing the idea of a stormwater utility. At that time, it was basically staff interacting with council. Then the recession came in 2009, and it was said, well, now's not a good time. So that was the next iteration of trying to present the idea of a stormwater utility. So we've managed stormwater up to this point through our capital improvement plan, just basically standalone projects trying to mitigate problems. We've never addressed the idea of operational funding. One of the things that's interesting is public works operations, the field staff. We've had zero expansion. Actually have fewer FTEs now than they did in 2000. And if you think of the amount of growth that's occurred in the community since then. So that's one of the challenges that we're facing. So in 2016, we started working again with Public Works Committee and City Council on this idea of dedicated stormwater funding, and that's kind of led to where we are now. This was kind of reaffirmed with the recent strategic plan and comprehensive plan. Both of those identify that some sort of stormwater utility or dedicated stormwater funding. Now, so we're looking at the main goal is some type of dedicated funding for stormwater over the long term. And what this is illustrating, it does tie into some of our, what we consider our critical success factors with the strategic plan and Ignite plan. Now, this point, I'm going to turn over to Anna, and we're talking about the stormwater utility, and there are other ways to fund it, and that's kind of some of the policy decisions, but part of this too is we'll engage with our stormwater advisory committee after this to kind of work through some of the details on those funding options, again, with council's guidance and direction on some of the preferred options. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Anna to kind of dig into more of this, this stormwater utility development.
All right, thank you, George. Hi, good evening. It's nice to meet everybody. My name's Anna White. I'm with Black & Veatch. I'm the project manager for this study that we're conducting for the city. Okay. This figured out here. Okay. So Black & Veatch conducts a national stormwater survey every 3 years. We've been doing this since, I think, the 1980s. We have about 76 utilities that participate in this survey that we do. So what we've noticed in our surveys over the years is that consistently aging infrastructure, funding inadequacy, public awareness, and increasing regulations are the top challenges. And what you saw in the pictures that George presented, Lee Summit is no different than the rest of the country. So what we're seeing here in Lee Summit is there's a need for proactive management of the infrastructure, and that means in terms of inspections and routine maintenance. There's also obviously a need to meet regulatory compliance. We need to address the deferred maintenance. By doing that, that can help to enhance the level of service that you're providing to your community by eliminating the flooding in the residential areas and the sinkholes in people's backyards like we just saw. In order to support these initiatives, though, there's a need for not only greater operational capacity in terms of resources, but funding capacity as well. And that funding mechanism needs to be identified. We don't know what that funding mechanism is right now, but it needs to be identified and it needs to be sustainable. So one of the fundamental principles with user fees is that the fees and charges reasonably align with the costs incurred in providing those services to your customers. So that's why we always start the study with identifying your program requirements. The program drives the costs that we're going to recover from your customers. Those costs then drive the rate structure, the fee structure, how we're going to recover those costs from your customers. And that's what provides that long-term resiliency to the community, is having that stormwater structure in place to recover the costs. So these are the components of the study that Black & Veatch is currently working on with the city. We've completed the 3 items on the left. We've confirmed the level of service, the O&M, and the capital costs. We're going to talk about that. We developed the billing units in terms of impervious area, and we'll talk about that. We've put together the five-year financial plan, then based on those 2 components. The items on the right are still to be completed. As we work on those, we'll be back to give you an update of the progress for those tasks. So we're going to start with a review of the program requirements. So working with the city team, we developed the stormwater management costs for 2 different scenarios. One's called the base level of service, LOS, you'll see in the slides, and the other one is the enhanced level of service. So the costs were categorized into these 4 O&M components that you're seeing on the slide. And we're also showing them the key activities that are typically performed in each of these areas. So system maintenance, that's where you see the routine preventative inspections, maintenance, taking care of all of the different parts of the system. Additional funding is needed in order to provide that activity. Water quality and compliance, this is really related to pollution prevention measures, treatment, monitoring, and other requirements that are associated with your stormwater MS4 permit. Planning and engineering, this includes floodplain management, providing engineering support for maintenance and repairs projects, and developing and managing the design and construction of stormwater capital projects. The current annual spend on these 4 program elements is about $800,000 a year. So we'll look now at the first option here, option 1, which is the baseline. So the improvements that we're showing here would likely be implemented over a 5-year period. So we have the same stormwater program elements. We've also added those stormwater utility. You'll see the 4th one down. So I want to highlight, under system maintenance, the new 5-person crew. So as George mentioned, the existing stormwater operations group that falls under the system maintenance, it's a shared public works resource. The crew's not dedicated to stormwater. They're frequently reassigned to fill other priority work. As George mentioned, pothole patching, right-of-way maintenance, different things like that. So the crew doesn't have the capacity to provide the routine maintenance that's needed for stormwater. So therefore, this baseline option reflects a dedicated 5-person crew and the associated additional vehicles and equipment that would go along with that crew. So that's one of the big additions in level of service 1 is a 5-person dedicated crew just for stormwater. The second one that I want to point out is the CMP replacement program. That's the corrugated metal pipe that George was also talking about. So right now, that program is currently funded from sales tax revenue. So there needs to be a dedicated and a sustainable funding source for that program. So we're transitioning that into the O&M with this level of service. So you can see that also falls in there under system maintenance, transitioning that program to O&M. Water quality and compliance, there's a need for 2 additional full-time employees to help meet permit requirements. Planning and engineering, you'll see that there's several suggested additional resources to help implement those efforts, including working on the stormwater master plan as well as asset management. In the event that a stormwater fee is implemented, there's going to be a need for a dedicated data analyst and a billing support analyst as well. So that's what's shown there under the stormwater utility, and that's a new stormwater program element that's been added. The estimated annual costs for this program, option 1, would be about $3.95 million per year. Okay. All right, so the enhanced program then is the base program that we just looked at, plus these additional features. So adding a second dedicated 5-person crew. So under the enhanced, we now have 2 5-person crews dedicated to stormwater. We are putting aside more money for the CMP replacement program under option 2. There's enhanced contract services being provided under planning and engineering. This will allow the group to start more programs and implement the CIP. And then, of course, there's additional admin costs associated with the new crew. So the annual estimated costs for option 2 would be about $6.5 million per year. Okay, so this is kind of a summary of those 2 options compared to the current. So again, you know, under the current program, this reflects 1 crew that's not stormwater dedicated, and a limited amount of funding sources for contract services. Under option 1, we have a full-time dedicated crew, and then option 2, we add that second one. You'll notice that we've also added capital costs at this point. So the O&M is in blue, capital is in green. Those dollars reflect additional equipment for the new crews, as well as a placeholder for future projects that would be identified through the planning efforts of the utility. So what this shows is that the current level of funding is about 21% of option 1. It's about 13% of option 2. So it is a significant jump up to the what would be the recommended level of service for your customers. So this is a restatement of the bar graph that we just saw. The only difference between what I'm showing here and what was shown in the previous slide is that I've added this gray slice on here, which is the O&M reserve. So we have the operation and maintenance expense in blue, the capital in green, and then we have the O&M reserve. An O&M reserve, it's an industry best practice, and it provides for unexpected shortfall, revenue shortfall, or unexpected increases in operating costs. I think it's probably safe to say that you do have a O&M reserve for your wastewater utility and your water utility. It's usually referred to as a number of days of cash on hand. So you would want that same provision for your stormwater utility as well. Okay. So there are basically 3 funding options as we see it that's before us. And we're going to talk through those, a couple of them in very high level, another in a little bit more detail. So basically the 3 funding sources are 2 are taxes, so sales tax, looking at a new, sales tax is a new source for stormwater, property tax is another option, and then there's the user rate, the stormwater user fee. This would be a dedicated stormwater user charge funding, and it would be based on every parcel's amount of impervious area, and we'll talk about that more. So just some high-level information regarding option 1, which is the sales tax funding. So state statute allows a 0.5%. For this, 1/4% is already being used. Parks may use another 1/8, so that leaves 1/8 possibility for stormwater. That would generate approximately $3.1 million in revenue. Another option for sales tax is the general sales tax. 1/4 cent for stormwater would generate about $6.2 million. Okay, and these figures were provided by the city. Black & Veatch does not do any advising on stormwater tax levies, so this information was developed by the city. The second option is the property tax funding option. Again, you can see here under option 1, if we wanted to fund option 1 through property tax funding, 15.2 cent increase would generate about a little under $4 million in revenue. And then for the enhanced, it would be 22 cents in order to get the $6.5 million in annual revenue. All right. The third option is an impervious area user rate. Okay, and that would be a dedicated stormwater funding source. So Western Kentucky University also conducts a stormwater survey. I think they do it every year. And it's basically a survey of all the user-funded fee utilities in the country and what their rates are and what their rate structure is. So this survey indicates that there's about 2,000 stormwater utilities that are user fee funded throughout the country. And you can kind of see on the map here where all of those stormwater utilities are located. The reason why a stormwater user fee funded utility is so popular is because, first off, it provides that dedicated and it's a relatively stable annual source of revenue. So it's not based on sales tax. It's not based on water usage, which, yes, some utilities do pay for stormwater through their water charge or through their wastewater charge, but this would be a dedicated stormwater charge based on impervious area, so it would be constant each month and reliable. It's similar to a water and sewer utility in the fact that you would be charging every single customer, potentially a base charge, and then a charge per impervious area every month, just like you kind of do with your water customers and your wastewater customers. It's designed to align with the revenue requirements, meaning the program costs that we just walked through, the rates would be set in order to recover the revenue associated with that program. And then it could be adjusted easily each year, just like you adjust your water rates and your sewer rates. As your costs go up for stormwater, you would adjust your stormwater charge as well. So this is kind of a very high-level calculation of how we get to the stormwater charge. So we start at the top where we have the annual stormwater revenue requirements, whether this is the base level of service 1 or this is the enhanced option level of service 2. That's our starting point. Remember our revenue requirements, it consists of O&M expenses, capital, and that O&M reserve. Okay, that's our annual revenue requirements. They will typically increase each year with inflation, as well as cost escalation, as well as adding new components to the program as time goes on. The system-wide unit rate is then determined by dividing those annual revenue requirements by the stormwater billing units. So then from that point, we then design the stormwater charge using that system-wide rate as the basis. So I'm going to shift from talking about the dollars to now talking about the units. Okay, so talk about impervious area. So this is a high-level summary based on the data that we have available. So we have the number of parcels within the city boundary, comes from the city's parcel polygon GIS file that was provided to us. That also included the lot size for every parcel as well. This data also provided us with a land use designation for each parcel. And we summarized that into the 4 categories on the slide. Is it a residential commercial? Is it a residential customer? Is it non-residential? Is it other? Or is it vacant? Vacant reflects parcels that have no impervious area. So then the impervious area imagery was available from the Mid-America Regional Council. We had a contractor then delineate that impervious area at the parcel level. So that gives us the amount of impervious area for every parcel within the city boundary. So when you look at the number of parcels, you see that about 86% are residential. That doesn't seem unreasonable. It's a residential town, so that's certainly what we would expect to see. If you look at the level of the amount of land area, those 86 parcels have about 44% of the land area, about 58% of the impervious area. Seems reasonable. When you look at the non-residential, that's about a little under 6%, 5.5% of your parcels. Obviously, they have more impervious area than the residential. I'm sorry, they have about 29% of the impervious area. And when you add up the non-residential plus the other, it gets closer to 42%. So if we added the non-residential, other, and vacant, that gets us up to about the 42% of impervious area. So that's a substantial amount of impervious area coming from the non-residential that reflects only about 8% of your parcels. So if you went with a flat fee per parcel, or if you went with a sales tax, or if you went with a property tax, you're really shifting a lot of that burden of recovering those costs to your residential customers. But with an impervious area-based fee, you're recovering those costs from all of your customers equitably based on impervious area. So that's the reason why we see over 2,000 stormwater utilities in the country being funded with a stormwater user fee based on impervious area. So once we've completed that impervious area analysis, we have the data by parcel. The next step is to then determine the billing units. So we start with the total impervious area that we have for the entire community, the city boundary. First, we want to take into consideration any adjustments that are going to impact those billing units. So the first one is possibility of excluding certain properties from the charge. This may be tax-exempt properties, this may be vacant properties. So we want to at least have a discussion whether there's any properties that should be exempt from the charge and recognize that. I do want to note all properties do benefit from stormwater management. The industry guideline is that all properties should share in the recovery of the costs associated with stormwater management. However, we recognize that there may be special circumstances for providing an exemption, and so that is something that will be discussed. We also want to take into account any other billing or adjustments such as a stormwater credit. So stormwater credits are commonly offered to non-residential customers for implementing and maintaining on-site stormwater management practice that results in a reduction in that parcel's billing units. So we would be reducing our billing units to take into account that there are some non-residential properties that are controlling their stormwater runoff on their own. So the final billing units then are determined by deducting those billing unit adjustments from the initial billing units. So then what the stormwater system-wide fee would be based on is that final adjusted impervious area billing units. Okay, so we kind of go back now to our equation. So we've talked about the revenue requirements, we've talked about the billing units, you divide the units into the dollars, you get that initial system-wide rate. But that point then is when we then start thinking about what the stormwater rate structure should look like. This is the mechanism that we would use to charge each of your properties. So there's some things that we want to keep in mind when we start thinking about the rate structure. The first principle is that properties are treated similarly and proportionally. What that means is if you have a residential customer with 3,000 square feet of impervious area, and you have a non-residential customer with 3,000 square feet of impervious area, are you treating them similarly? Are they paying the same fee? Proportionally means if you have a non-residential with 3,000 and you have a non-residential for 10,000, is the difference in their charge proportional to the difference in their impervious area? Does it support equitable cost recovery? This goes back to looking at that pie. Where is the impervious area coming from? If we have 40% of impervious area coming from non-residential, are we getting 40% of our revenue from non-residential? Does that make sense? Where we're getting that revenue from? Is the rate structure easy to understand? You know, you don't want customers calling the city complaining that they can't understand what in the world they're paying and how to calculate the bill, and they don't know what the bill is going to be next month. Want to make sure it's easy to understand. It has to be feasible to implement and administer. This is a new user fee. So this is just like, you know, your water charge and your sewer charge. It's a new fee. It has to be implemented within the city and the method for billing for it has to be implemented as well. Does it support customer affordability? You know, we want to absolutely make sure when we get to that point where we're looking at the rate structure, is start calculating typical bills, just like you would for water and sewer, and how is this going to impact a wide variety of your customers, not just your residential, but your non-residential and your really large non-residential. What's the impact going to be? Okay. So as George mentioned, a Stormwater Advisory Committee is part of this process. The Stormwater Advisory Committee, you'll hear us refer to the SWAC, or you'll see the SWAC on slides going forward. Basically, what this committee is a representation of a variety of different stakeholder groups as shown on this slide. So we want to try to make sure that we have participation from as many different groups as we can. Residential, non-residential, as you can see here, education, faith-based, nonprofit, hospitals, large group, industrial. So the point of putting this group together is that we can present to them, kind of like I presented to you tonight, what the process is that we're using as we go through the study, what the findings are that we've come up with so far, have them review those findings, answer those questions, have a discussion with them, and get their feedback. And they might come back when we show them the rate structure and say, this is way too complicated, nobody's ever going to understand that. We'll say, okay, let's talk about what would be better. So we plan on meeting with that group 3 times. You can see there the topics, the financial plan, just understanding what are the costs needed in order to fund the stormwater utility, user fee policies, what are things that we need to take into consideration, such as should any parcels be exempt from the fee, and then the rate structure and the bill impact. As we meet with that group and get their feedback, we will provide updates to the council so that you are aware of how we're progressing with that task. So these are some of the key decisions, issues and decisions that we're going to present to the SWAC. So program costs, what is the level of service, what are the options, what's the cost associated with those, what are the different funding options like we talked about tonight, the 3 different options, the fee basis, if it's a tax, what would it be rate based on? If it's a user fee, what would it be based on? Should we exclude any properties? What would the rate structure look like? Should residential and non-residential have the same rate, or should it be a different rate structure? And then billing considerations. How are we going to bill for this? Are we going to add it to the utility billing system and put it on the existing water and sewer bill, or are we going to do something different? So these are all the topics that we're going to discuss. And like I said, we're going to bring the feedback that we get from them back to you so that you can hear that, their thoughts as well. So next steps is we're going to continue forward and design rate structure based on impervious area. We'll complete the series of 3 workshops with the SWAC, and then we'll have another presentation to this group. Okay. I know that was a lot, and I tried to stay high level as much as I could, but I'll take any questions anybody has at this time.
All right, thank you. Hold on 1 second. Okay, questions, Councilmember DeMorrow.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Anna and George, for your presentations. We're finally here after 5 or 6 years of being on the Public Works Committee. We've talked about this and pushed it forward. Then we take a few steps back, and we're finally here. But generally, do you have an idea, or could you share with us some of the impervious coverage rates? You had the map of all the cities that are cities or municipalities that were involved in that. Could you give us an idea of maybe the high and the low of the impervious coverage structure rates?
So when you said, so are you talking about the actual fee?
Well,
Or-
what people would see on their utility bill, or however we decide to bill it. And this is aside from the property tax and the sales tax, what are we talking, a couple dollars a month, average $5 a month?
So what I can say is from our 21 survey, one of the things included in here is a typical residential bill for all 75 of their participants. And the median in 2021 was a little over $6 a month.
$6 a month, okay. That's about what I would have expected. You know, in all reality, of course, I know the SWAC is going to, you know, hash this out and come up with recommendations, you know, and then, you know, it'll be up to us to decide. But you know, to me, the impervious coverage, of course, is the cause. That's what we're talking about. That's what's causing the flooding. And the sales tax, I'm a little shy of it because it would reduce the city's ability for future sales tax increases. I mean, we're locked in. We're locked in by statute that we can only do so much. And then the property tax, I find that as a, you know, it's kind of onerous too, because the smaller houses would pay the same. Well, excuse me, it would based on your assessed value, but still, the assessed value it's your house, and you may have a two-car, you know, driveway on that house, just like the person with a smaller house or a lesser value. So I find that a little onerous. So I'm really stuck on in favor of the impervious coverage because it would you know it would reduce the propensity for people to lay a lot of concrete and asphalt is the bottom line. I think people, they know they're going to have to pay if we go that route. And I think that's actually a good thing if they can get away with it. The potential exemptions, that would include some tax exempt and you tell me if I'm thinking the right way, tax-exempt institutions that have a lot of impervious coverage. They have large parking lots. And I don't know if I would be in favor of that, but also in your studies in the you know, in the cities, does detention facilities, is that actually a potential exemption also if you have a detention facility?
That would be considered a credit. That property could get a credit for having that facility. So there'd still be a stormwater charge, but it would be a reduced charge to recognize that.
Because you don't have the full runoff. Well, that's about all I had. I was curious about the $6 and you know, again, I think that's a more fair. Anyway, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Donna.
Thank you. Councilmember Edson.
Thank you, Mayor. I will echo Councilmember DeMoro's comments. We're finally here. I can't believe it. How many meetings have we sat through talking about this?
Hundreds.
My question is really on the stakeholders, on the stakeholder group. Some of these are obvious. I mean, for educational institutions, you ask the superintendents or, you know, whoever's in charge. But the neighborhood associations, some of these other groups, what do you need? Or is council, do you all see council appointing these, or how's that going to be done?
The way we're approaching this is, you know, we kind of presented this grouping to Public Works Committee, and then we've already got a commitment from the Lee Summit School District to be part of the SWAC. And then we've identified certain like HOAs or residential areas where we know we get a lot of service requests, and we've drafted a letter to send out invitations to that, and so we'll be sending out those invitations to people. And the other thing is, you know, when we look at like an at-large citizen, I mean, there's, you know, those are, I think we'd be looking for you all for recommendations on something like that. If there's a certain resident in your district that has, or has had a keen interest in this or input on that, that would be something as well. But we're also working with like development services and administration to identify, you know, who we want to who we want to invite to be part of this.
Okay, thanks. And also, so is this kind of like, and all of a sudden, it was a success? So it took us 10 years to get here, so you'll have this all wrapped up in like 60 days, or?
The plan is to have 3 meetings with the SWAC over the next 3 to 4 months.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Okay. And when will we get workshop number 2?
I think that'll depend on what comes out of the SWAC. If there's a key question or issue, we need to come back and get a decision or guidance. And then at the end of that, because part of the timing is getting an ordinance in front of council to put it on the ballot in November.
Oh, wow. Okay. That was perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Yes, Councilmember Felker?
Thank you, Mayor. No, I'm just gonna, key off something that Mr. Binger just said, and that Councilmember Pryor actually, I think, was the one who asked about it in our Public Works Committee, which was the idea of at-large committee members for those who may not be tied to a neighborhood or homeowners association. So if there are council members who have individuals in your districts or that you know in the community that would be interested in this kind of participating in this would be a great, we should connect with you, Mr. Binger, the one we should connect them with. So that's all I want to say, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I just got a couple questions. The impervious, I mean, we need to wait for what the committee comes back with and recommendations, but just, you know, from our seat up here, the impervious utility rate seems more tolerable. I think that's kind of a given, but when you say that it would cost $6 or $7 a month, doesn't that depend though on which of those two options we go for, the enhanced versus the extra enhanced?
Yes.
Okay, so that was based probably on just the enhanced?
Well, that $6 was the median monthly residential charge from our stormwater survey. So just across the country, that's what the median is. You know, we see as high as $25 in Seattle and Portland. Some places it's $1. So it varies quite a bit. You know, on average, it's about $6. But yes, it would be different under the base, the level 1 or level 2 enhanced. Right. And that's part of what we would be presenting to the SWAC and to you to show the difference in the stormwater user charge as well as the impact on your customers between those two options.
Okay, yeah, because one's 4 million almost and the other is 6.5 million, so it could be $6 a month, or if we go with the enhanced, it could be $10 a month, or it could be more than that. Depends on the median income and of those communities and such, or the needs of those communities, I should say. Not the median income, but the impervious, the flood, the stormwater needs. But you've estimated what those would be, and so part of those, part of these estimates, the 4 million and the 6.5 million, are an estimation of, it's the 5-person crews, but it's also, you've got the vehicles included, and you've got the planning and engineering, and you've got the billing support. That billing support was for the utility rate? Or?
Right. If it's a user charge fee,
Yeah, so you've got
you
that
know,
built
if it's
into that formula there.
billed through the utility, right, there's a charge.
Because doing the utility is gonna cost more than the others, so, right? More than a property tax or more than the other, but it's definitely the more tolerable.
In terms of the fee to your customers.
Yeah, we have to manage it. We have to charge it on a water bill or, you know, something along those lines.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Appreciate the visuals to help us understand what some of these terms are. You got a lot of acronyms. But also just seeing, you know, the inside and, you know, the issues that we see every day all the time, but yet these are excellent visuals. I was a little surprised at the sinkhole that was up close to a house.
Yeah.
So we actually have stormwater going underneath, or that close to houses and such. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, yes, we do. That occurs now. Typically, it's, the depth of the pipe is not within the zone of the support,
Yeah.
soil support for the footing. Because when you have a basement wall, you're on the side of the wall, so it's not
Gotcha.
impacting the footing.
Okay. And then on the silt management, when you're doing this, can you do an analysis of, go to slide number 7. Yeah, right there. Like that top left one, there's some litter control type of mechanisms. Can we look into that while we're doing that? Because you're going to get silt, you're going to get runoff, you're going to get, but there are some pretty cool technologies out there. I don't know how expensive they are, but can you talk to the committee about that as well and bring recommendations forward?
Yeah, yes, absolutely, because that's one of the common complaints we get from the lake communities is the trash and the litter that
Right.
gets to the lake. So I think that's something we have to look at in our level of service for this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there's some cool things you can put in place there. Okay. And then all right, well, I'm sure there are some citizens that are just fired up and excited about getting on this committee. So we'll try to weed them out as far as make sure that they know what they're talking about, or know at least what you're talking about, because this is not it's not really the easiest things to understand here. But not too many engineers on this committee, okay? I mean, holy cow, you guys. All right. Oh, Mr. Lovell, Councilmember Lovell.
Sorry, thanks, Mayor. Do we have any, comparator municipalities or cities that have gone through this and done it, and how they've managed it that we could reference or?
So we are currently on the implementation phase for Wyandotte County, Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. Their stormwater fee was approved last November. So we're implementing it this year, and it will go into effect January of next year. If you want any feedback from them on the public outreach phase and the importance of the Stormwater Advisory Committee, I can give you a contact person. They decided to kind of go the route of doing the entire study before letting the public become aware of it, which greatly backfired. You have to bring the public along with you as you go through this process. So that's why setting up the Stormwater Advisory Committee now and bringing them along as we start, evaluating different options and scenarios, it's very important. But it was finally approved and being implemented. We've done implementation in Springfield, Ohio, Newark, Delaware, several others where we've got a couple feasibility studies going on in Florida. So we can certainly provide you with some contacts if you'd like to speak to, one of those communities about the process and how it worked out. We could provide you with that information.
What about I just sit there and I think Overland Park, how are they funding this type of work versus, how did we end up here where we're underfunded significantly, and, what have other communities done to not be in this position?
So pretty much all of the communities in the Kansas City metro, Overland Park, Lenexa, Shawnee, even Bonner Springs, Kansas City, Missouri, Blue Springs, has a stormwater fee based on area. So not a tax, but based on some type of area. Like Olathe, it's based on gross area, the lot size. But the majority of them here in the Kansas City area, it is based on impervious area. I think Bonner Springs is a flat fee, but impervious area is what we mostly see here in Kansas City. I would say for most of those utilities, the fee has been in place for quite a while. So
Maybe
the fees, right, and
A little behind the times compared to.
Right. It was implemented early and, an annual increase each year, just like, with your water and your wastewater rates.
And that was the other thing, is it like the rate adjusted over time, like on an annual basis? Because obviously costs go up.
Right.
So it gets assessed every year, or is it like, and then changed or adjusted, or?
You know, it kind of depends on what the city wants to do. You know, it wouldn't be unreasonable to do a water, wastewater, stormwater rate survey every, 3 or 4 years and see what kind of revenue increases are needed. I would kind of, just recommend what you're currently doing with your existing utilities, kind of following that trend in terms of, increasing your rates annually, if that's what you're doing.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If I may too, Columbia, Missouri has a stormwater utility. Theirs was enacted, I think, 1992, and then 2014, they went back and did a revisit on updating the rates. Independence has a sales tax for their stormwater services. Kansas is in a different legal environment than Missouri, so they can set it up more like a utility. So the elected officials and the utility board can set the fees, whereas in the Missouri side, there's the Supreme Court case with the Metropolitan Sewer District that's had a big impact on how we can set those up in Missouri. And so we're gonna have to navigate work with law department on that, how we structure that as far as the ballot language, as far as, the increases, utility board, things like that.
Great. And then the only other thing, and I would echo what Mayor said, was, I don't know if technology's improved or products have improved, that, the useful life of these things may have gotten better. These were obviously put in a long time ago. Being able to seek those things out, making sure we're.
The city no longer allows metal pipe for our public infrastructure. We require either plastic or concrete for our stormwater pipe.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Well, I knew it was going to knock your socks off, everybody, so good job. Thank you both. I don't know how you would do your job in Florida. I don't know how you would do stormwater in Florida. Where would it go? I mean, everything's flat, and there's swamps everywhere and marsh, and so I'm glad we can at least, direct it somewhere. So it looks like we got a bunch of work to do because November is coming right up. So let's get started on that, and let us know how it's going, Mr. Dunning or Mr. Binger. We'll be ready to listen. Thank you. Okay, would you like a break or a quick one? Yeah, okay. Let's come back at 10 till 8. Quick recess. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to bring this meeting back to order. We have a resolution that we need to, we had a presentation on this resolution. This is a resolution about the exterior renovation for a building at 6 Southwest 2nd Street. So I'm going to have our city clerk read the resolution, and we can discuss or vote.
Thank you, Mayor. A resolution sustaining the appeal and granting the requested relief of city staff's denial of the exterior renovation permit application PL 2022-422 for the proposed facade renovations located at 6 Southwest 2nd Street within the city of Lee Summit, Missouri.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt the resolution 23-03 by Councilmember DeMoro, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It does pass 8-0. We have another resolution for a federal contract tower program. Would you please read that for us?
Thank you, Mayor. A resolution authorizing the submittal of an application for entry into the federal contract tower program for the Lee Summit Municipal Airport.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt the resolution number 23-04 by Councilmember Edson, seconded by Councilmember Felker. Discussion? Yes, Councilmember Felker.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question or two, if I could ask Mr. Park. You know, I talked briefly about this. Mr. Park, I saw a little bit of traffic online about people objecting to this, which I thought it'd be helpful to just dialogue briefly about really the two issues I saw on that. One was questions about the ratio used by the city, and the other about the operating budget of the airport. And I wonder if you would just speak to those two things for us. I know we even talked about one of those in committee previously, the ratio, and kind of understanding why we used it and how we came about. But if you wouldn't mind just sharing a few thoughts on those two
Sure.
items.
The ratio is a matter of flight activity for the untowered airport and being a participant in their air traffic control tower program, as opposed to using just standardized, if you will, average formula traffic numbers that the FAA prepares. Our consultant has prepared a specific flight record for the Lee Summit Airport. Those flight numbers were vetted through MoDOT and supported by MoDOT, and then independently reviewed by the FAA and supported by the FAA as part of the application. With regard to the budgetary comments, I'm also very familiar with. I think there had been some criticism as if this air traffic control tower were constructed, that it would have an annual operating expense to the city of $500,000, which is presented in the capital improvement plan. But it's important to note that the costs, the expenses, and then the revenues for airport improvements, in particular the air traffic control tower, are really borne by the FAA. If an air traffic control tower is approved to be a part of the air traffic control tower program, we still need to take those steps through the application process. We would then need to seek federal funds for the construction, and normally for other airport improvements, and the same as with this ATC. Those federal funds come in at about 95% to 5% local cost. And then once that tower is constructed, the FAA would provide the revenue and the fund source to man and operate that facility. So that $500,000 in operating expense would not be a local cost.
Thank you, Mr. Park. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It does pass 8-0. Thank you. That takes us to proposed ordinances forwarded from committee. Councilmember Edson, would you start us off by reading bill number 23-041?
Thank you, Mayor. I move for second reading of bill number 23-041, an ordinance amending chapter 29, traffic and motor vehicles, article 5, stopping, standing, and parking, division 1, generally of the code of ordinances of the city of Lee Summit, Missouri, by amending section 29-354, stopping, standing, parking prohibited in specified places.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, bill number 23-041 by Councilmember Edson, seconded by Councilmember Felker. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It moves to second reading unanimously. Councilmember Edson, would you please?
Thank you, Mayor. I move for adoption of Bill number 23-041, an ordinance amending Chapter 29, Traffic and Motor Vehicles, Article 5, Stopping, Standing, and Parking, Division 1, generally of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lee Summit, Missouri, by amending Section 29-354, Stopping, Standing, Parking prohibited in specified places.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt Bill number 23-041 by Councilmember Edson, seconded by Councilmember Hodges. Discussion? Please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It is adopted unanimously. Thank you. Councilmember Lovell, would you please read Bill number 23-042?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to advance the second reading, Bill number 23-042, an ordinance approving a cooperative agreement for funding operations of Operation Greenlight Traffic Control System by and between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and the Mid-America Regional Council, and authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, Bill number 23-042 by Councilmember Lovell, seconded by Councilmember Hodges. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It passes 8-0. Councilmember Lovell, would you please?
I move for adoption Bill number 23-042, an ordinance approving a cooperative agreement for funding operations of Operation Greenlight Traffic Control System by and between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and the Mid-America Regional Council, and authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt Bill number 23-042 by Councilmember Lovell, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. That bill is adopted unanimously. Thank you. Councilmember Pryor, would you please read Bill number 23-043?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to advance to a second reading, Bill number 23-043, an ordinance approving modification number 3 to the agreement with Crawford, Murphy, and Tilley, Inc. for on-call professional planning and engineering services for the airport, RFQ number 2020-067, in the amount of $59,000, and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, Bill number 23-043 by Councilmember Pryor, seconded by Councilmember DeMoro. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It does move forward to second reading unanimously. Councilmember Pryor, would you please?
Thank you, Mayor. I move for adoption Bill number 23-043, an ordinance approving modification number 3 to the agreement with Crawford, Murphy, and Tilley, Inc. for on-call professional planning and engineering services for the airport, RFQ number 2020-067, in the amount of $59,000, and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt Bill number 23-043 by Councilmember Pryor and seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It is adopted unanimously. Thank you. Councilmember Hodges, would you please read Bill number 23-044?
I move to second reading Bill number 23-044, an ordinance approving a state block grant agreement for eligible preliminary project costs towards the preparation of the runway 11-29 taxiway Bravo and taxiway Charlie reseal, joint seal and remarking project for the Lee Summit Municipal Airport between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission in the amount of $59,000, and authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading Bill number 23-044 by Councilmember Hodges, seconded by Councilmember DeMoro. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It moves to second reading unanimously. Councilmember Hodges, would you please?
I move for the adoption of Bill number 23-044, an ordinance approving a state block grant agreement for eligible preliminary project costs towards the preparation of the runway 11-29 taxiway Bravo and taxiway Charlie reseal, joint seal, and remarking project for the Lee Summit Municipal Airport between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission in the amount of $59,000, and authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt Bill number 23-044 by Councilmember Hodges, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. That bill is adopted unanimously. Thank you. Councilmember Felker, would you please read Bill number 23-045?
Certainly, Mayor. I'd like to move to advance to second reading, Bill number 23-045, an ordinance authorizing the execution of a Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission Airport Rescue State Block Grant Agreement by and between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission, granting federal funds in the amount of $59,000 for airport operational and maintenance expenses and authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, Bill number 23-045 by Councilmember Felker, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Lopez. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. That bill moves to second reading unanimously. Councilmember Felker, would you please?
Mayor, I'd like to move for the adoption of Bill number 23-045, an ordinance authorizing the execution of a Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission Airport Rescue State Block Grant Agreement by and between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission, granting federal funds in the amount of $59,000 for airport operational and maintenance expenses and authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt Bill number 23-045 by Councilmember Felker, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. That bill is adopted unanimously. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Lopez, would you please read Bill number 23-046?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. I move to advance a second reading Bill number 23-046, an ordinance approving a change order number 4 to the agreement for the construction of the water main replacement fiscal year 21 project number 438-1 between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and Weidman, Inc. for an increase of $88,332.93 for a revised agreement amount of $4,096,487.30 and authorizing the city manager to execute the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, Bill number 23-046 by Mayor Pro Tem Lopez, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It does move forward to second reading. Mayor Pro Tem Lopez, would you please?
Yes. Mayor, I now move for adoption of Bill number 23-046, an ordinance approving change order number 4 to the agreement for construction of the water main replacement fiscal year 21 project number 438-1 between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and Weidman, Inc. for an increase of $88,332.93 for a revised agreement amount of $4,096,487.30 and authorizing the city manager to execute the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt Bill number 23-046 by Mayor Pro Tem Lopez, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. That bill is adopted unanimously. Thank you. Councilmember DeMora, would you please read Bill number 23-047?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to advance to second reading Bill number 23-047, an ordinance approving change order number 4 to the agreement for the construction of water main replacement FY22 first phase project number 496-1 between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and Weidman, Inc. for an increase of $56,149,000.47 for a revised agreement price of $4,129,983.57 and authorizing the city manager to execute the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading Bill number 23-047 by Councilmember DeMora, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. That bill moves to second reading unanimously. Councilmember DeMora, would you please?
I move for adoption, Bill number 23-047, an ordinance approving change order number 4 to the agreement for the construction of the water main replacement FY22 first phase project number 496-1 between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and Weidman, Inc. for an increase of $56,149.47 for a revised agreement price of $4,129,983.57 and authorizing the city manager to execute the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt Bill number 23-047 by Councilmember DeMora, seconded by Councilmember Hodges. Discussion? Please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It's adopted unanimously. Thank you. Councilmember Edson, would you please read Bill number 23-048?
Thank you, Mayor. I move for second reading of Bill number 23-048, an ordinance approving dual award of RFP 2023-039 to Prairie Industrial Group LLC and Utilus Safe Construction LLC for on-call potholing services for a one-year term with 4 possible one-year renewal options, and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading, Bill number 23-048 by Councilmember Edson, seconded by Councilmember Pryor. Discussion? I think we need to put these people to work right away. I hit a pothole on 3rd Street yesterday.
Little bit different type of potholing. So this is potholing for utilities, actually creating potholes, but outside of the roadways.
I thought we had a street department for this. All right. Any discussion? Please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. It does pass unanimously. Councilmember Edson, would you please?
When you sit on Public Works Committee for a long time, you learn these little nuances.
Yeah, well,
Just-
I thought it was funny with the, I mean, it doesn't say potholing, it says patholing.
True,
It's
true,
what
that's
it
fair.
says potholing.
Polling.
But that's if you read it phonically. Patholing?
Now I'm gonna screw up reading this. All right.
Go ahead, Councilmember Edson.
I better go slow. Mayor, I move for adoption of Bill number 23-048, an ordinance approving dual award of RFP 2023-039 to Prairie Industrial Group LLC and Utilus Safe Construction LLC for on-call potholing services for a one-year term with 4 possible one-year renewal options, and authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the same.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt Bill number 23-048 by Councilmember Edson, seconded by Councilmember Hodges. Discussion? This is a motion to adopt. Please cast your vote. Somebody's computer played a trick on them. Yep. All votes are in. Please record the vote. And that is adopted unanimously. Well done by Public Works and city staff. Next is proposed ordinances first reading. Councilmember Lovell, would you please read Bill number 23-049?
I move to advance the second reading Bill number 23-049, an ordinance approving a development agreement between Blackwell 55 LLC, Reserve at Blackwell LLC, Residences at Blackwell LLC, 120 LLC, and the City of Lee Summit, Missouri for the Blackwell mixed-use development.
Thank you. We have a motion to move to second reading Bill number 23-049 by Councilmember Lovell, seconded by Councilmember Edson. Discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes are in. Please record the vote. Passes 6-2. Takes us to committee reports. Public Works is tired. They're not about to have another meeting. Okay. Then let's go to council comments. Oh, Councilmember Felker?
I'll just say, I said it the other day, well, not, wasn't in this setting, but I know that the CIP is in front of us or will be, and though the public process will be upcoming, but there's always the invitation to council members to provide names of projects that you think are important or need attention, and get them, brought to staff's attention so they can be considered and thought through, and perhaps entered into it, whether it be this year or obviously in a longer term, perhaps over the years. Thank you.
Yep, no, thank you. Okay. Council comments. Okay. Mr. Dunning, staff roundtable.
Just a couple items, Mayor. Thank you. Staff has been providing numerous public information presentations to civic groups and other entities throughout the city about the no tax increase bond issue coming up. So we do have public information prepared and still developing some. So if any of you have a need to share public information, we do have handouts that we can get to you, and we're also frequently asked questions, and we're near the ability to create that website, that landing page for the no tax increase bond initiative. So a lot of work going into those initiatives and sharing of public information. Mayor, kind of building on your comments about the landfill matter, I would share with the council too that last Friday, the Lee Summit R7 School District invited state representatives and senators to visit Summit Point Elementary, which is just down in that area. And Representative Strickler, Sander, and Stacy, and Senator Searpoy all attended, in addition to Dr. Buck and myself and the city manager for Raymore, as well as some school board members, and that was a great visit and discussion about what's going on down in that area, and gave a good feel for that area for those individuals. So that was a great meeting that was hosted by LSR 7. And then while attending the Missouri Municipal League down at Jeff City, I attended a presentation by MoDOT, and I know trash and right-of-way maintenance is a topic here in the city, in the region, and safe to say that's a topic across the state. MoDOT knows that. They didn't really hit it head-on as to what the issues are, but that representative is echoing what we have heard from our regional MoDOT representatives, in that it's a staffing issue, and that's part of the reason why many of us see what the state is anticipating for raises, because they are having a hard time finding staff to fill those positions, and those are lower priorities on MoDOT's screen. So it was interesting to hear from a state perspective from, I forget what his title was, but I'll call him the VP over MoDOT, share what he's hearing and what MoDOT is experiencing. And it's across the state, so I thought I'd share that with you as well. And that's it, Mayor.
Thanks for going to Jeff City with us. We went to each of those representatives and Senator Searpoy. We went to our numerous representatives, Engel, Strickler, and Patterson, and it was a great visit, and they were very accommodating and engaged and listened to our concerns. Yes, Councilmember Felker?
Thank you, Mayor. Just follow up on that comment about the budget and staffing. I think I saw come through a headline saying that the governor just signed a legislation upping the pay. I don't know if that's how quickly that's in effect. Do you know what I'm talking about, Mr. Dunning?
I do. Was it the 8%, I think, for state employees?
That sounds right.
I don't know how soon that goes into effect, but I read a similar piece on that.
I would assume it's relatively soon, and I mean, because usually bills don't get signed really early in the session unless there's some reason to put it in place immediately. But that would be interesting to know, and to actually understand if that, in fact, that increases across the board. Does it apply to Department of Transportation just like everyone else?
I believe that it does. It encompasses what MoDOT is challenged with in finding help for those types of resources.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Yep, thank you. Councilmember Pryor?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say thank you to Jackson County for passing Resolution 21148 today, opposing the landfill.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
That's great news. Thank you. Okay, I don't get to close, so, because we have to go into a closed session. Would someone read us into closed session? Councilmember DeMauro, thank you.
Pursuant to Section 610021 of the revised statutes of the state of Missouri pertaining to legal actions, causes of action, or litigation involving a public governmental body, or any confidential or privileged communication between a public governmental body or its representatives and its attorney, and pursuant to Section 610021 of the revised statutes of the state of Missouri pertaining to the leasing, purchase, or sale of real estate by a public governmental body where public knowledge of the transaction might adversely affect the legal consideration. Therefore, I move for closed session.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion to move into closed session by Councilmember DeMauro, seconded by Councilmember Felker. Discussion? Seeing none, could I get a roll call vote?
Councilmember Shields is absent. Councilmember Edson.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Lovell.
Aye.
Councilmember Hodges.
Aye.
Councilmember Pryor.
Aye.
Councilmember Felker.
Aye.
Councilmember Demaro.
Aye.
Mayor Baird.
Aye. Thank you all.